thing that I've found in my lifetime that will knock down the resourcefulness of an individual quickly. It will absolutely bury individual initiative every time, and that is bureaucracy of any sort. You see, bureaucrats think they're smarter than us regular old Joes. Bureaucrats see a problem like y'all do, and they have to form a committee to figure out what to do. A month down the road, the problem's still there, and they've got to form another committee to oversee the first committee. And the problem is still there, then they've got to pass a resolution to give themselves permission to study the problem that they got there in the first place. And then they have to have quorums. It takes bureaucrats an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. But this bunch on Easter Sunday had a problem, and it was a cloud layer, but it was VFR below about 4,000 feet or so. And I swear there's got to be 1 million airports between here and Key West because everything that had a wing and a motor on it was flying. It was a holiday weekend. You got an international airport at Miami in Class Bravo. You've got an international airport at Fort Myers with people going in and out, visiting family and coming back from visiting family. It was busy. And that's when about 1:30, I rang up to Nate Hinkle. I ruined his Easter. And Nate was buried. Nate was buried with traffic. And Nate was buried with trying to figure out what to do with the King Air. It was on a 2,000 foot per minute climb on autopilot, and I didn't have a clue. So somebody grabs Lisa, and they bring her from another sector, wasn't even her area, and bring her down there. And they worked out a system of hand signals to where Nate would work 3 or 4 airliners full of people. And he said later he never talked that fast in his life. And then she would signal him with a hand or something, say, I've got to work this guy. So he would hand the mic to her. And that's the way they did it. And the whole time in the background, Jessica's reaching and shucking and jiving and getting people out of the way. So then the whole time they're doing this, Lisa finally convinces me that I've got to disconnect that autopilot. I don't want to disconnect that autopilot. That autopilot's doing a perfectly fine job of flying. It's just going the wrong way. So she tells me and convinces me that's what I've got to do, how to do it, when to do it, and what to do after I do it. So at a little bit below 18,000, we started hand flying the King Air. And then later she convinces me that I've got to contact Fort Myers Approach. I called them Fort Myers Center, but it got the job done. And I'm in the right seat, so I'm doing everything offhanded. It's weak-handed, it's my left hand. I can't do that. I can't dial it's all different from over there. If you listen to the whole tape, there's a guy named Airboy. He's a pilot, but that's his screen name. But he put the whole thing on YouTube. But if you'll hear it, I asked her 3 or 4 times what that frequency is. And I now know that frequency for Fort Myers in that sector is 132.07. So she convinces me and figures out and shows me how to put it in there. I don't want to go to Fort Myers Center. I'm talking to Lisa. Why do I want to talk to anybody else? A bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush, because if I lose her, I'm a duster. Because if I lose her, it's real quiet up there. So finally she shows me what button to push on that radio, and I get to Fort Myers. So Brian's waiting on me. Brian's literally going out the door to go home. He shifts over, and somebody grabs him, brings him back in, and sits him down in front of the radar screen. So Brian got him a lot of OT on Easter. And he's got a coworker there that hears what's going on, my little buddy Dan Favio up here, and Dan says, oh, King Air's in trouble. I got a buddy in Danbury, Connecticut that's got a lot of King Air time. I'll get my cell phone, call him. And he does. And the guy answers. So the rest of the time I've got Brian Norton giving me headings and speeds and altitudes. And Dan's buddy in Connecticut is telling him in the phone, tell him that the flap control was by his left leg, and he would tell him, and Dan would tell Brian, and Brian would tell me. I'd say, got it. He'd say, it's only got 2 notches. Lower the first one at this airspeed, lower the second one at this airspeed. I'd have a question, I'd ask Brian. Brian would ask Dan. Dan would get on his cell phone, ask his buddy, and that's the way we went for 20 or 25 minutes. And I said all that to say this. These folks had a problem that they faced on that day, and they didn't form a committee to figure out what to do. They just got it done. They didn't pass a resolution. Because that's the way they are. And that's the way you are. You can't train for this, people. I guarantee you in your ops manual, that sounds fancy. I assume you've got something like an ops manual. It doesn't say when King Air pilot dies. Go down to another sector, get a woman who has some piloting experience, bring her up here, sit her down beside you, work out a set of hand signals, and while you're working all these airliners full of hundreds of people, when she gets enough, make a signal and let her work him. And convince him to take the autopilot off. If that doesn't work, go to subsection B. Get on a cell phone and call a buddy that lives 1,000 miles from here that has King Air experience and talk to him on the cell phone. That is not there. It's individual initiative that gets it done. Instantly, coincidentally, as soon as this save, as you call it, was over, the very minute it was over, Dan tried to call a buddy or somebody right after that on his cell phone, and his cell phone went dead. I don't mean the battery died. I mean he had to buy a new cell phone. And he didn't know his buddy's phone number. And Brian Norton sitting beside him didn't even know his buddy's name. Those are some of the divine things that fell in place. And we're at the beach in Florida, in Fort Myers, in the middle of the afternoon, and there's no wind. No wind. When does that ever happen? But I've danced around this buddy of Dan Fabio's all night, or for the last 10 minutes. I'm not going to dance anymore. His name is Kerry with a K, Kerry Sorensen. He's from Danbury, Connecticut. He came all the way down here at his own expense, I might add, to see his buddy win this award and share this night with him. And I got something for you too, Kerry. Come here. You got to do this too. Come on. Kerry Sorensen.